All right, so with our lovely Miss Ruby, we're just going to warm up with a little bit of some typical find its, and then we're going to dive into a little bit more with some loose leash walking. So sometimes what can be really nice is to set up some either bowls or inanimate objects that you can use to move around. So we're going to try two different kind of, I guess, patterns. These are different than like pattern games, which are more designed for helping your dog, let's say, for example, start to hone in on you versus a distraction, or help them calm down if they're overwhelmed or too excited. This is more of just some loose leash walking patterns. So you can start to get a puppy that's more in tune with, like, as you're moving together. So, and it's just another great way to just throw in some fun and some change to, instead of just going from point A to point B. If you kind of throw in some fun, it tends to create more engagement with your puppy. So obviously she is a little bit older than other very little baby puppies, but this could be something you could even do with very young puppies to practice sort of your handling skills, even off of leash, for example, in your home. So if you've got a fenced in yard, it could be another option, but I feel for a lot of puppies, if they don't quite know what it's like to do loose leash walking, it's very hard to try it in a very hard or stimulating environment. So I always like to start off these types of skills in a calmer setting, be it inside your home, maybe it's your driveway, it could be maybe your backyard if it's like a softer environment and the pup does a great job in that zone, then that could be an option too. So the way I like to kind of warm up the beauties is, obviously she's doing some really, chewing is optional. She just spit out part of her celery, but I think it just fell out. So part of it is I like to warm up with find its to create some movement and then engagement back to me from the environment. So you can see that Miss R, as she now noticed her celery piece, is as she comes into my space, ready? She's like, or I can trip on that darn bowl, is I sometimes will feed her for the check-in itself, and then I might send her away for another little find it. Nice. So you can even just feed for the engagement coming into your space. You could also throw in name recognition. You could work some of those lovely recalls by, again, her name and the recall word, be it come or here, or if you've got a different slogan, that's fine too. So ready, find it. She's doing great. I bet she goes home nice and winded because she and her classmates do a lot of playing, but then also she does a really nice job frolicking in the environment. So the way we're going to start off this exercise is I normally have 3 targets. You could do just 2 or even just 1. So whatever you have lying around is just going to be a great way to start seeing, like, is she sort of paying attention and moving around with me through the environment? Or is it at times she's a little bit more disjointed or confused or a little bit maybe not as attentive? So we're going to try this a little bit with starting, for example, doing loops around them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off at one end, make one big loop around all 3 bowls, and then the next loop will be a shorter loop where instead of all 3, it's going to be the first 2, and then the last little loop will be the last bowl. So I always like to start this off on the side in which the dog does best on. So if they prefer working on your left side, you can start there. If they're not as comfortable on one of the other sides, when you go to change your direction to go in the opposite, sometimes you're moving and the puppy moves around you, and other times you're moving and you're moving into the dog. So this can be really good for some awareness of where they are in relation to items, but where they are in relation to you as well when you're practicing. So we're going to try this a little bit with Miss R. Oh, nice big piece of celery. These are nice because you can break them up, and she says they're delicious. So let's say we're going to start her off. And if she prefers left or right, whichever is fine, I'm going to see if I can start her off on my left side. So I'm going to feed her for being by my leg. You'll see that in the beginning, I may sometimes be luring her. Sometimes I'm capturing behavior, so feeding for the moment she's doing the thing I want. Other times we could be also doing shaping, which is, again, building up to the big skill. As she's progressing, it gets to more of the, again, like the big girl version. So as opposed to being, as opposed to being lured into that behavior, we would start to, again, feed for the bigger step. So if we were working it down, and in the beginning we were getting downward facing dog, we would then start to feed for more and more of what looks like a legit down versus the beginning stages. Yes. So right here, we're going to go ahead. She's like, lady, you're blabbing way too much. And of course, very boring. So we're going to get Miss Rube's attention. Ready, Ruby? We're going to bring her, if for example, she's having a little bit of a hard time can't talk today, having her line up with my leg, I might do a find it to get her forward in that direction and then restart her. So I'm going to go ahead and have the food near my hand. We're going to take a few steps together. I'm going to feed throughout even the movement. So if sometimes the only time you feed is during the turn or when you go to stop, your puppy might think that none of the other steps counted, only, for example, when we did that one thing. So that was a good little crumb there. Nice. So right there, we went from, she says, maybe that one was quite as delicious. So we started here and we went all the way down to the 3 bowls and did just one big loop. Now what we're going to try to do is same thing, oh my gosh, chewing, is we're going to start off in the first bowl here, and you'll see that she right now is moving around the outer part of me, so it's not as challenging for her as if I were to move into her space. So I'm going to get her attention. Ready? She's like, did I drop it? We're going to go right into a little bit of this movement here, and we're going to go ahead and loop around this second bowl and then head back to our original. So if I lose her, I'm going to regain her attention. So now again, I have a few snacks ready in the opposite hand so I don't have to reach while I'm mid blabbing and talking and discussing some of these topics. So now we're going to try our third bowl, which is again, the first starting bowl. So again, right now you'll see that I am using my hand as that visual to kind of hone in on, because I want her to start thinking that if I'm checking in and working this way, ready? Then that's the right spot to be. And then later you can always fade out that hand gesture. So, but in the beginning, you'd go ahead, ready? Nice job, Nassar, good girl. So we're gonna get her attention. I'd say, you ready, or let's go, or with me. I'm gonna keep that hand sort of by my hip. If let's say she was being a little bit too wiggly, I might go ahead and bring the hand up a little higher. If I lose her, I just might do my little positive interrupter, try to gain that focus back on me, and then feed throughout the moments where she's next to my leg. So then as she gets more comfortable, your hands could be out of range. And now we went around that second bowl. Nice. If you feel that, again, she gets a little bit of a drunken sailor moment, just reset her up on the side you'd like. Use that hand as that helpful visual for her. So that way she can start to hone in on that for right now as she's building up these big girl skills. So this one was all done, again, where she was on my left side. If, for example, we're going to try this on the right, that means that as I'm going around the bowls, she's going to end up having to slow down and have me be on the outer part of her. So if, let's say, again, we're going to set her up now on this right side. The reason it can be nice to do both sides is sometimes there could be something cruddy on one side of the roadway and you want to switch. Maybe you're trying to practice for other, maybe agility or other fun things down the road. It can be nice to have your puppy be able to go on both sides, especially also for sometimes like rally. So different fun things, but just in general, good for their overall, knowledge. So right here, if my pouch is going to be a little bit in her way where I might bunk her with my lovely slime rag, I might move it to the middle. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go, or with me. We're going to go ahead and move. If I start to lose her, notice how she's a little bit ahead of me. So if I start to lose her, I'm going to just reset her up next to my side, feed her there, try to get her attention on my hand, and work her a little bit that way. So you'll see that this is a little bit more awkward for her because it involves me, right, moving into her space. So if she gets a little bit ahead, see if you can get her to slow down, feed for the softer, slower behavior. Ready? Ribs is like, I swear there's a snack that she lost. So that way you can start to build up that going a little slower does have value too. For a lot of the puppies, we tend to walk really slow in comparison to them. So like you'll see that it's really hard for her on the smaller circle to stay more in the spot that I'd like her to be as we're going around the bowl. So you may find in the beginning it's not going to be the most beautiful thing you've ever done, because especially if it's new to her and new to you, oh, I bumped my mic, sorry, then she might find this to be a little bit more challenging. So, but the main goal to the pattern is to get your puppy to practice, again, being on the left or the right, and then work around the bowls. So she does much better because she's more comfortable on the left side, because I think that's been the side that she's primarily been practicing. So if I lose her, I just kind of chirp, get her little focus back on me. Yes. She's like chewing and walking. Nice. So sometimes you can even just start to do whatever feels comfortable. Maybe if it's really challenging, you just work 2 bowls, like the 2 outermost bowls, versus going right to the middle bowl. So ready? Ribs. Nice, good girl. So you may also have moments where maybe you take and give her a little breather. Maybe, for example, working the loose leash walking around the bowl is a little bit challenging. So we might break it up into some more steps. Yes, nice job. So what I would love to do is try a little bit though with our gorgeous gown. And so this is one of the patterns. The other one will be more like doing figure eights or kind of weaving through it. And that can be another great way to throw in some different movement from her end. So if, let's say, we're again going to start her on the outside. So she's going to be on the left and sort of on the outer part of the bowl. Ready? We'll do a little find it. So if this is challenging, you may find 2 bowls to be easier. You can always rotate and see what feels comfortable for both of you. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just start moving. Nice. And we're just weaving through the bowls, almost like, you know, again, like you're practicing from one side to the other. Ready? Yes. So I want to definitely feed also Ruby for when she is next to the leg versus if she was only sitting, oh, we dropped it, or if, let's say, she was only around the corner. So I want to make sure that all of it has value. Yes. Nice. Ready? Good job. She's being so smart. Nice. So we might go ahead and send her away with a little find it. So giving a little rest through some of the new things can be helpful. We'll see if she can maybe rock a little pause up, and then we'll probably give her a little break from this exercise. Ready, cutie? So we'll try a little bit. Pause up. Yes. Oh, she remembered. Nice job, ma'am. So right here, I'm doing a little jackpot. So again, one snack after another to build up value that doing this weird thing is very beneficial from even her perspective. Ready? Pause up. She's like, how about a sitting position? So sitting's very nice, but we're going to see if we can get... She's like, I'm going to multitask. She's like, I'm going to do a sitting position and a pause up or half paw. That's very nice, very impressive. So this is where, again, you could sometimes even feed for the attempts. Because if, let's say, she thinks it's really challenging to even offer some of the behavior, yeah, smart girl. We don't want her to feel like trying something is so hard that we want to just give up because it's just too difficult. So this right here breaks it down into a smaller step where maybe even the almost there behavior could still be beneficial to her. Ready? Pause up. She's like, did you throw them? Right there, yes. Good girl. So smart. So, but we'll probably give Miss Lovely a little breather. This was really pretty with her loose leash walking skills and practice. But again, if any questions or concerns arise, I know today is their last day for this round. I believe the following one is already full, but I did add one more after that. And I believe that one still has a few spaces. So no pressure to continue. I know some folks have already registered for the last one of the season. Excuse me, because with the doggy day school, I like to take a little bit of a break for the little humans when they're out of school. So structured play is still going to be rocking and rolling like usual on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. But doggy day school will be out come more like mid to end of June until then September it'll start up again. So, but we'll give our gorgeous Miss R a little breather. But she did such a good job. Ready, cuteness? We'll do a little find it. And we'll call it a day for these exercises. But very impressive with Miss Ruby. Smart girl.